What's going on in Central Illinois? What's going on, Sports 2.0 Network followers? Welcome to the Colten Kahler Show with yours truly, joined by former co-host of the Put the Kids to Bed podcast, formerly of 1011 ESPN Peoria, Tim Van Straten, ladies and gentlemen. Tim, welcome back.
Thank you, Colten. Thank you. I love the applause too. I feel so special. Is Put the Kids to Bed still a show? I know Rodney was trying to keep it going, but I think it may have faded away.
It has faded away. I think Rodney had it at he was still doing it right before he went to Vegas, and then once he went to Vegas, he got really busy, and I don't think he quite has time. Right now, he's worrying about a 4-year-old soccer league, and I know he's also running Morton Heat basketball as well. So he's got a lot of. He does want to get a new show going. I don't know.
I'm shocked he even had like the half hour to do it with me twice a week before with his schedule. So it's not surprising that's gone away. But that's okay. I'm glad that the Colten Kahler Show has come in though and filled the programming void.
I try to do what I can here.
Right.
We'll start. We'll catch up with you. How have you been with the new job and everything?
Yes, new job has been good. It's obviously been different when you go from talking on the radio every day to doing a lot of writing. But I'm really enjoying covering the NBA with sportscasting.com. I just hit my 2-month mark not too long ago, and I've put out close to 200 articles by now. They're all available if you go on Sportscasting and you look up my name, and you can read a whole lot of good NBA content. So that's my shameless plug right off the bat. But no, I've really enjoyed it. It's been a interesting transition just to go from like a radio station to being at home and literally just having your laptop is the only thing that you need for work. But that's kind of 2021 these days. You can do a lot of different things remotely.
That's what I've started with when I started writing with here. It's all you need is a laptop, and it's about it.
And a brain and working fingers for typing. That helps too.
That too. Sometimes the brain doesn't want to work, but you got to do what you got to do. So,
yeah.
Do you miss it? Do you miss the radio station at all?
Oh, I absolutely do. Yeah. So it's funny because I with what I did at the radio station, there were a lot of various jobs and responsibilities besides show up in the afternoon and do a show with Jim. I obviously miss that. I miss our listeners, which fortunately a lot of them have, been able to follow me on Twitter. So I still have those interactions with them, which I really, really appreciate. So those things, yeah, I absolutely miss. How could you not? When you do a show for 4 years, I think it was, like Jim and I were together for almost 4 years exactly before I left. So, there's a lot of memories in that, and I'll always be grateful for it.
We'll get into our show here. We'll start with my first segment, Hot Seat, Hot Take. Right there, even got a nice little addition up here. I said the one job that you had coming on was you had to have one person on the hot seat and one hot take. So we'll start with you. What did you have prepared for me?
Okay, so I'm going to go with my area of expertise, my new area of expertise, and I'm going to go to the NBA here. For hot seats, and this is kind of crazy when you look because, number one, this team is 5-3. Number two, their coach has been on the job, this new job, for 8 games. But I'm already putting Jason Kidd on the hot seat. And, I was very skeptical of the hire when it happened. I ultimately, though, ended up giving the benefit of the doubt and saying, okay, hey, look, he was able to learn from mistakes that he made with Brooklyn, with Milwaukee. He had some good time as the assistant with the Lakers. He maybe figured things out. And like that happens. We have coaches that flame out in their first stint or two, and then they have a humbling experience before they're able to rise above it. But, I'm concerned with the fact that the Mavericks across the board have taken a step back offensively. It's largely the same team that it was under Rick Carlisle, and that's probably, if you ask Mavericks fans, a bad thing if they wanted an upgrade around Luka. But like Luka's numbers have taken a step back. Porzingis doesn't look like the same player. And I get that there's a adjustment period with a new coach, but there are new coaches every single year across the league. But this Mavericks offense has now gone from one that I think should be at least in the top half of the league, given guys like Luka, Jalen Brunson, Porzingis, to now I think bottom 3 or 4 in offensive rating in the NBA. Like, it's just not a good offense. And I think a lot of that is Jason Kidd. So I'm not saying let's fire him after 8 games, but that offense will need to turn around before I say, okay, he was the right man for the job.
No, I agree, because 5-3, that's not bad, but Luka's going to be able to carry you so far, but at some point he's kind of going to need a little bit of help. And you're spot on with the fact that they've really not been better. Their team's not any better than what they were last year. Last year they were a lower half seed in the playoffs. And did they get Clippers again last year?
Yeah, I think they've gotten Clippers every time that Luka's been in the postseason.
Right. And so, I think they're going to be, a 6-5 seed at best, in my opinion, just based on their roster.
Mm-hmm.
And so I do like that hot seat. It is early, and I do agree that, maybe he learned something with Frank Vogel in Los Angeles, but we've seen, in his 2 trials so far in Milwaukee and in Brooklyn, granted, those 2 teams are different than what they were when he was there. It'll be interesting to see kind of how the longevity of the season goes.
Yeah, I wanted to get the numbers just to confirm. So their offensive rating going into the games tonight is 102.2, which is 27th in the NBA. So 27th out of 30 teams. Their defense is also in the bottom half at 17. So despite what the record says, all indications say it's a below average team. And I'm looking at Luka Doncic and seeing those numbers go down when the fact he's only 23 years old. They should be going up. That has me concerned with Jason Kidd there. So I want his seat to get a little bit warmer, even though he's new to the job still.
Who do you got for your hot take? Or what do you have for your hot take?
All right, Colten. I'm going to go with our Lakers on this one.
Okay.
I'm going to go with our Lakers on this one. So I'm sure that anyone viewing has been made aware that LeBron James will be out for at least the next week. That being said, I think however many games it is, so I think they have 4 games just in the next week, so he'll probably end up missing 5 or more. I think the Lakers are going to have a winning record without LeBron James. So there are a couple of reasons for that. Number one, we're seeing the Lakers defense drastically improve over the last couple games. I know the one against Houston the other night was concerning considering the type of team they are. But before that against Cleveland, we saw that defense really, really step up. Russell Westbrook, how awful he started the season. He's never going to be an efficient player. We know that. But at least Westbrook is, I think, delivering more numbers that we're used to seeing from him, and the turnovers are going down a little bit. I think that we are going to get more Davis in the 5. I think Vogel, even without LeBron, is realizing that, hey, you know what? DeAndre Jordan, Dwight Howard, they're just not guys that should get more than 13, 14 minutes in a game. So we're going to see Davis at the 5, which is when they're at their best. I think Malik Monk's going to have more opportunity, and he's going to break out of his slump. Carmelo Anthony's going to have more opportunities, and he's been arguably their most impressive player this year, given his expectations. The schedule, and this is the big thing with them, their schedule actually bodes really well. They got a couple tough teams, Miami and such, but 6 out of their next 7 are at home. So you could say that maybe all of the games that LeBron's going to miss, if he misses 7, that's, a lot of those are going to be in Staples Center. They're going to have some wiggle room to work out some different lineups. And I think things are coming around for the Lakers at the right time where they can withstand a period without LeBron. And even if it's going 4-3 without LeBron, it's a whole lot better than what we've maybe seen in the last couple of years whenever he's missed time. So I think they manage things better than people think they're going to without LeBron in the lineup.
I was looking at the injury list, and the Lakers injury list right now is a little lengthy.
Yeah,
so obviously
it was before the season started.
Right. And we're still missing THT. I believe Kendrick Nunn is still out. I believe
Ellington has
Dwight
been
Howard's on
out.
there.
Ellington has been out, but I believe he is on the verge of being back. So he's probably someone who they could slot into the starting lineup.
Yeah. No, I oftentimes, the Lakers are really good with LeBron, and no matter who has LeBron, you're gonna be good. But I oftentimes say to myself, man, this team would be so much better if he just retired.
No, I'm not going to go that far. I mean, it's still LeBron James.
Well, no, and that's what I'm saying is he's still LeBron James, and he's still no matter what going to give you a chance to win. But there's just times where this year I'm just like transition. He doesn't even get back. He just stands at the other end. I'm like, dude, come on. And
It's called conserving your energy for the moments that happen, because you still, like, when the moment calls for it, we'll still get the energized chase down block LeBron, go up for a dunk LeBron. The only thing that I will say, though, to your point, is that we are getting a lot more threes, like a lot more, like 10 a game. So maybe that'll be a good thing, that the Lakers can maybe get a little bit smarter with some of those possessions that LeBron is pulling up from 27, 28 feet out. And that could be an advantage. I'm not going to say that they're a better team without him by any means, but I think that they can weather the storm a little bit.
the to mention, your point on conserving energy, the AARP Lakers, as I call them, they'll need to conserve as much energy as, if they want to make a run.
They will. Yeah. 100%. And what I'm looking forward to, and I actually just put an article about it today, is I'm looking forward to this being an opportunity for Frank Vogel to play around with some lineups. I would not hate the idea of, let's say LeBron misses 5 games, seeing 5 different starting lineups in each of those games. I don't hate that idea, because chances are, look, he's already gotten a sore ankle. This is now an abdominal strain. I don't think we can expect at this point LeBron to give you 70 uninterrupted games when he comes back from injury. So when he's out, when he needs inevitable rest, like, what's going to be your best combination? So I'm hoping that Frank Vogel is able to toy around with the lineup and not just stick to one lineup of, oh, well, let's just start DeAndre Jordan and hope it goes well. No, like, play around with it. Start Carmelo a game. Start Austin Reeves a game. Austin Reeves has been solid for them. Do all those things so that if LeBron misses games in the future, you got a lineup that you can plug and play. And that's even before guys like THT and Kendrick Nunn enter the rotation.
Yeah, exactly. It'll be interesting to see and they'll have room. I mean, they're going to make the playoffs. We know that. You really think LeBron and AD and this team's not going to be in the playoffs? I mean, come on.
I mean, I even the most skeptical, pessimistic person such as because I'm like always assuming the worst with all of my teams all the time. They are not going to miss the playoffs this year. The Western Conference is not all that good. Like, compared to where it's been, it's really not all that good.
Well, and looking at kind of how the East is going to shake out, the East might be better this year.
I think the East is better this year. I
Right.
absolutely think the East is better this year. Well, look at the teams right now that are currently out of the playoff picture in the Eastern Conference. So right now, the top 3 teams in the East that are outside of the play-in round are the Hawks, the Celtics, and the Pacers. I think all 3 teams were in the playoffs last year. In the West, it's Portland, San Antonio, and Houston. Like, Portland, okay, yeah, they're probably better than what their record says, but like San Antonio and Houston are bad. And those are just bad basketball teams. So yeah, I think the Eastern Conference from top to bottom is better than the West is this year, which I don't know in my lifetime the last time that I've said that.
My hot seat isn't all that great. Because I don't really know how hot it is. I put Jim Harbaugh on there. I think at this point, Michigan's just willing to keep him just because he's Jim Harbaugh. He's going to get recruits there. They're always going to be somewhat relevant, but I don't think they're ever going to get to the point to where they're going to get to national championship level. Mm-hmm. You lose to your little brother this last weekend. They still have to play Ohio State, but how you would have thought that if Harbaugh was truly going to be gone, he'd be gone by now.
Yeah, we've been putting Jim Harbaugh on the hot seat for about 3 or 4 years now. And it's amazing that, Ohio State can have coaching turnover and controversy, and yet they still routinely defeat Michigan like it's nothing. Michigan State's who, I'm sorry, Michigan should not be an inferior football team to Michigan State, just as a whole. Michigan State should not be able to rise up and contend quicker than Michigan is. And what is this, year 7 of Harbaugh, it feels like? So,
and this is year 1 or 2 of who's the Michigan State coach? His name's escaping me.
But yeah, but the point being,
right.
You're absolutely right. Like, it's a seat that should be ablaze, not even hot, just on fire. While Jim Harbaugh's khakis have just turned into ash, but like it just nothing seems like it's ever going to change.
No. And then my hot take is kind of going to get us into our MLB talk. I've been seeing a lot of Buster Posey. Buster Posey retired today. You know, he's a great catcher of my generation, my childhood. But come on, he is not a first ballot Hall of Famer. He is not the greatest catcher in this generation. Let's stop it with this nonsense because it's just not true. It's not. And catcher, the catcher position is so hard to look at it analytically from a baseball, perspective. But the guy's got 1 Gold Glove. Yadier Molina will double his innings this year. He's got over 100 more games, He's good. He will be a Hall of Famer, but let's slow our roll. We got a little too much dip on our chip, and let's cool it on the best catcher in this generation.
I have not seen. Has that been the argument? Is it people saying that he's the best catcher of the generation over Yadi Molina, I'm presuming?
Yes.
Well, I think it's different. I think Yadi Molina has been the best defensive catcher, and Buster Posey's been the best offensive catcher. And I also know that Buster Posey has, played a fair bit of time at first base as well.
True.
But the only way, and I think that's really good nuanced take. The only thing I will say, though, is that I think he should be a first ballot Hall of Famer, and I'll only say one reason why. I typically like to look at the Hall of Fame as, okay, were you the best at this? So I'll give you my classic example. Like, to me, Devin Hester is a easy first ballot, no doubt Hall of Famer. Because Devin Hester returned kicks better than anybody in the history of the National Football League. So I think the person who is the best kicker, even though it's a kicker, should be a Hall of Famer. Like the best punter should be a Hall of Famer. I think Buster Posey has a really strong case to say for an entire decade, he was the best offensive catcher in all of baseball. And when you look at his numbers in terms of, okay, he won a batting title. He hit over 300 for a career. He won 3 World Series titles. Like, he's one of the best offensive catchers ever at a position that is historically the worst when it comes to offense. So between his numbers in the regular season coupled with the postseason success, to me, that's what makes him first ballot. Obviously, the 1 Gold Glove, just the 1 Gold Glove hurts him because as impressive as it is offensively, catching is still looked at as a mostly defensive position, and also a shorter career. But I think he has done enough in his 13 seasons or so to say, okay, yeah, this guy should be in the Hall of Fame. And if most baseball fans are saying, yeah, he's a Hall of Famer, then what does it really matter whether it's first ballot or not? Just put him in the Hall of Fame and let's be done with it.
That's true. And, for me, it's more of the generational comment that kind of, and granted, a lot of it's my bias as well. But like, if they would have just came out and said one of the best offensive catchers, I never would have, turned an eye, never would have said a thing because his numbers are better. He probably compares up there with Salvador Perez.
Who I think Salvador Perez, when his career is done, I think is looking like a very likely candidate because he's going to have offensive numbers and Gold Gloves.
Well, and he tied the he was the home run leader this year. So
I know, which is just ridiculous.
I want to get into free agency. It's started. We've already had one move. Tucker Barnhart was traded to Detroit.
Which I don't know how that didn't lead SportsCenter this afternoon, to be honest with you.
I don't. They got a third baseman, young third baseman in return. I can't remember the name, but the one thing, I mean, I've been trying to read about it today, and it sounds like the MLB is headed towards a lockout in the next month if they don't come to an agreement. And I tried to talk to Rodney about it. He goes, I don't know. He goes, I try to read that stuff and it just makes my brain hurt.
That's I'm mostly in that same camp right now. I know from do you remember last year? It seems like an eternity ago at this point, but last year when they were having a really tough time starting the season.
Yes.
And figuring out how the season was going to start, because basically what happened is you had the Players Association and then the owners battling on a lot of issues that they otherwise would have battled on in December. So ultimately the season did start, but you had two sides that felt very unsatisfied and felt like they were very far apart when they came to that 60-game agreement. So yeah, it's going to be contentious. I think it's too early to say, yes, there absolutely will be a lockout. The season's not going to start until May, whatever. But based on everything that we've seen the last couple of years with the Players Association, with the owners, with just the divide on many issues, I think that it's going to be a pretty ugly winter in that regard.
Which a lockout is actually going to prolong free agency.
Mm-hmm.
It's probably going to hurt, I think, a lot of people in the money that they want to get, because teams might be less willing to hand out money depending on kind of what happens. Because obviously a lot of this is over the prorated salaries. It's over lost revenue from tickets because of the pandemic and all that. And so you might see, your Trevor Stories, your Carlos Correa, your Max, they're not going to get the money that they probably want. And I think it's going to be very interesting to see where things go, because those are your top free agents, in my opinion. Carlos Correa, Max Scherzer, Trevor Story, Baez, Simeon. I'm about 99.5% sure Freddie Freeman's going back to Atlanta. I'm pretty positive. It wouldn't be surprising to see Anthony Rizzo go back to Chicago. I don't know, though. I mean, he's a New York guy.
I mean, and replace Frank Schwindel. I mean, how do you kick Frank out of the lineup? I think Frank Schwindel's better than Anthony Rizzo at this point. Rizzo was not very good for the Yankees down the stretch. He's just a name at this point.
Well, and I don't know what the Yankees' problem was down the stretch, but
the Yankees wouldn't have been close to the playoffs if they didn't win 11 or 13 in a row. They wouldn't have been close.
You can say the same thing for the Cardinals. So
we absolutely should say the same thing about the Cardinals. And both those teams hopefully are going into this offseason saying, hey, we were one crazy flukish winning streak away from missing the playoffs comfortably. That's how we should be assessing our franchise. And I think the Yankees are going to make big changes. And that's why the Cardinals were like, hey, we might need a different voice in that dugout.
But if you look at those two teams, they're 1-2 in the most championships in baseball. Mm-hmm. On one side, you have the Yankees, who will back up the Brinks truck for anybody, and they'll just drop it and give you a blank check and say, hey, take it to the bank. And then you have the Cardinals, on the other hand, where they nickel and dime everything. Mm-hmm. And that's why I am convinced the Cardinals will not sign a shortstop, and they'll be lucky if they get a starting pitcher. I think they have to make a pitch, no pun intended, for Max Scherzer, St. Louis guy, Missouri guy, but they're mentioned in the Carlos Correa sweepstakes. Look, I'd like to see Corey Seager, but I don't think either are going to happen. I think Mozeliak wants to bring up Nolan Gorman. They want to bring up the young guys, and I think that's a big issue of why Schilt was gone. Schilt wanted to go out and sign somebody, and here we are. So, it's going to be interesting, I think, where things go with this lockout and how it affects free agency.
Is there any indication at all that Nolan Arenado says, you know what, I do want to hit free agency, or is he coming back to St. Louis?
He's already verbally said that he will be opting in.
Yeah.
And I have not heard if it's official in writing, but it was before the end of the regular season. I think like the last week, 2 weeks is when, it was like, hey, St. Louis is going to make the postseason, is when he told the front office, hey, I'm coming back. And they said it would be within writing within the next week or so, but I have not heard anything since then.
Yeah, the Cardinals' MO with this front office, it's not necessarily, hey, let's just sit on our hands and do nothing, but it's certainly not, hey, let's spend a bunch of money in free agency. And that's one of the things that I do admire about the Cardinals is that they don't panic buy, but with their two biggest moves in the last couple of years, it was Paul Goldschmidt and it was Nolan Arenado. And both of those guys were veterans on bad teams who were ready to rebuild, that the Cardinals were essentially able to get for less than what those players were worth. Like they stole Arenado from the Rockies. They got Goldschmidt at a pretty decent bargain from the Diamondbacks. And that is how I feel the Cardinals should approach. So rather than saying, oh, hey, should we pony up $280 million over the next 10 years for Corey Seager? No. When you can probably look and say, okay, what veterans are stuck on really bad teams, bad situations that, okay, they're ready for a rebuild, and then we can try to exploit that. Now it's a little bit tougher because like I'm thinking in my head because it seemed like this year the bad teams were really, really bad, and none of them really have a star player stuck. Yes, I'm intentionally avoiding talking about the Angels because no, you're not going to get Mike Trout, Shohei Ohtani in this scenario here. But like if there's a team out there, like trying to think of like the Reds, let's say the Reds were like, okay, the Reds are, let's say, a 75-win team. They're like, okay, we're going to lose Castellanos. We're probably not going to be a playoff team next year. Like, would the Cardinals be able to figure out a way to get Jesse Winker? Like something like that. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's the best way that the Cardinals should approach this offseason in terms of improving. But to your point about Scherzer, yes, they absolutely should explore Max Scherzer and other starting pitching options because that is ultimately the biggest priority for them.
Yes. And Scherzer, the best part about Scherzer is you don't have to sign him to a 10-year deal. He's got 2-3 years and he's done. So it's kind of, I wouldn't say low risk, but I mean, in a way it is.
Yeah. And with no salary cap, pay him whatever he wants.
Right.
2 years, with $80 million. Why not?
Or do 3 years with an option on the last year.
Yeah. I mean, that's what the Dodgers did with Trevor Bauer. It was a short-term deal, but most money ever like annually in baseball history.
Right.
And Max Scherzer is a better pitcher. Mm-hmm. He's a better person, but a better pitcher. So like, yeah, that is how I think the Cardinals and any team looking at Scherzer should approach him. And I'm sure that you'll see very similar for Justin Verlander, who's a free agent. You'll see something similar for Clayton Kershaw, who's a free agent, although I'm not convinced Kershaw's going to leave the Dodgers. Mm-mm. But Scherzer in particular is a guy who is the obvious fit for the Cardinals and who they should open up the short-term bank for.
Yes. I want to get to the NHL, and then we'll finish with the NFL. We've got 2 segments in the NFL segment. So are you a Los Angeles Kings guy or are you an Anaheim guy?
Ducks guy. Yep.
Ducks guy? Okay.
I grew up about 30 minutes away from the old Arrowhead Pond. It's now the Honda Center, but I have been a Ducks fan since Paul Kariya and Teemu Solani were rocking the eggplant jerseys. So I followed them pretty religiously still.
Paul Kariya, one-time St. Louis Blue.
I try to forget. I try to forget all the times that Paul Kariya and Teemu Solani were not with the Ducks. When they both left in, I think, what was it, 2004? Something like that. It was one of the most devastating moments of my childhood when they both left, because I'm pretty sure they both went to San Jose. Or no, it was one of them went to San Jose, another went to Colorado, something like that. I know Paul eventually ended up with the Blues, but it was terrible. And then Teemu came back, fortunately.
So we'll get into the NHL. Have you been able to watch much this year?
Yeah. Well, okay. Well, first of all, I don't know how much you've talked about it on your show, but love the ESPN and TNT coverage.
I watched the TNT broadcast last night for the Blues.
So
They
much
did.
better than NBC was so stuffy. Like, with all due respect to NBC people, it was just stuffy. It was just, man, like TNT just brings so much more excitement to it.
The only thing holding NBC hockey together was Doc Emmerich. I mean, let's be honest. Rodney, fellas, what's up? Rodney,
What's
how's it
up,
going?
noob? What's up?
No, and I love that they have Wayne Gretzky on the pregame and postgame show, and people don't like Biz, but I kind of find him entertaining.
These are the best parts. What do you mean they don't like Biz?
Because they think he's too much, and it's like I think he's the best part.
That's you trust me. They need a guy like that. If they didn't have Paul Bissonnette on there, it would feel like NBC. Like, even with Wayne, like, it would just feel like it's a bunch of like old guys that are just talking about, how hockey should be played. And it would just feel like Mike Milbury should be joining them instead. So no, Biz is the perfect addition to that group. And he's what makes it fun. So you need a guy like that in there.
Well,
Absolutely.
and even with who's the guy on ESPN? I can't. His name is escaping me. I can picture him.
Which one? There's a lot of them. Barry Melrose? Or are you thinking
of the younger
guy?
It's not. Is it John Buccigross?
Yeah, well, I know Bucci does the hosting there. Yeah.
Yeah, well, he does. I think he does a little bit of play-by-play as well for some of the games. But I really love the ESPN broadcast. When
I love that I don't have to pay $120 for NHL TV anymore to watch the Ducks, and instead I can just use my ESPN Plus subscription and watch them that way. Because I already had one. I already have one with all the Bradley games that I watch. So
yeah, exactly. So I think we got another one here.
Oh, it's Rodney. You can ignore him. Rodney and I went to Game 4 of the Stanley Cup Final between the Blues and Bruins, and we passed Doc Emmerich in the annals of the Enterprise Center. Doc Emmerich, as you can expect, doesn't have a lot of time to go to the bathroom, so he uses his intermissions to very, very quickly escape to the restroom. I mean, you want to talk about like fast walking. I mean, Doc with like his 5'3" frame can just haul to the bathroom. So we just saw him with like all business, just get to the restroom, do his business, and then get back in the booth for the third period.
I think I'm gonna have to talk to Rodney about this whole getting to a Blues game thing. I mean, come on here, come on.
I mean, I don't know if you knew at the time. I mean, this was over 2 years ago.
Oh no. I followed Rodney at that point, and I knew that he was there. I did not know that you went though, but I knew that Rodney was there. I was like, oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, well, keep in mind, Colten, before I left, I used to be a big timer for a local ESPN station. I had perks, I had credibility. I could just walk right in, and Gretzky would be like, "Oh, hey, good to see you again, Tim." Like, take it easy, Wayne. I met Wayne Gretzky though.
I have as well.
Yeah, Wayne Gretzky.
Yes.
All right, where'd you meet Wayne Gretzky? Then I'll tell you where I met him.
We went to the PGA Championship at Belle Reef.
Nice.
And we were out there following around, and we're watching Dustin Johnson. I believe it was like on the second hole or something. It's like a par 3, and we're standing over in the shade. It's across the water, and we're just my dad and I are just standing there. And all of a sudden, we look over, and I see this jacket, and it says Gretzky School of Hockey or something like that. And I'm like, huh, that's weird. And then I literally look about 5 more feet to my right, and Wayne Gretzky is literally standing about 3 feet from me.
No, that's beautiful.
It was unbelievable. And we didn't make a scene of it. We just kind of made a little small talk. My dad's like, how you liking it, whatnot. And, how's it, to follow around Dustin and all that. But it was like, wow, standing next to one of the greatest hockey players, if not the greatest hockey player of all time.
That's similar to mine, except yours was a lot more scenic. You met him over at Belle Reeve. I met him right here in Peoria at Dozer Park. Where about 6 years ago, because I don't know if you know, I think it's Trevor. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but Wayne had a son who played minor league baseball, and he was in the Angel system. It was the Burlington Bees, so it was Burlington Bees coming to Peoria, and his kid was in the lineup, and no good. It was like 0 for 4 or whatever. And I was with a bunch of friends, and we just, once the game ended, everyone filed out as normal. And then we were just sort of hanging out in our seats waiting for the crowd to leave. And then suddenly we see Trevor Gretzky like come out of the dugout while someone else is walking down the steps to talk to him. And then I'm looking, I'm like, guys, I think that's Wayne Gretzky. And I'm like, I can't really get a look. And then I looked aside, I'm like, yeah, that's Wayne Gretzky, who had just been, without anybody knowing, in Peoria, there, just like totally anonymous, waited till everyone left, and then went to talk to his son. So once he got done with that, we were able to be like, hey, Wayne, do you mind if we grab a picture? Blah, blah, blah. And we was able to do it. I still have the picture. I asked him how he liked Peoria. I think he said he didn't mind it. I don't know, but we got the picture, and that was that. And then the next day, Dave Aminian from the Journal-Star posted a whole in-depth thing about Wayne Gretzky being in Peoria to watch his son on the Burlington Bees. And then that is when he was getting hoarded with like photo requests and all that stuff. So we were able to see him there before the Journal-Star blew up his spot, if you will.
There you go. No, my first ever hockey game, I met Darren Pang, John Kelly, nice. Brett Hull. I've got pictures with them. It was my first ever hockey game. So I had a very good first experience. And since then, I've been hooked with hockey. It's really entertaining. Blues play tonight, 9:30 in San Jose. So I'll be watching that.
Not a lot of people expect it from me, at least, just because, I grew up in Southern California and it's not a typical like hockey hotbed. But yeah, I love it. It's so fun to watch. And it is a great, great live sport.
I want to get to my next segment, and it's one that's probably very familiar, that you might be very familiar with. It's something that I saw you do for years. I was like, man, I really like that. But we're going to go ahead. I haven't done one in a few weeks, but we're going to go ahead with Colten's Top 10 9.0. I give you my top 10 NFL teams. And we even got the music. We even got the music.
I need royalties from this.
I might send you a check in the mail. We'll see.
Thank you. If this blows up, I would like my compensation.
I will definitely give you your compensation on this one. But we'll start with number 10 on this week's Colten's Top 10. We got the Tennessee Titans. Big win. They've turned it around. They did lose Derrick Henry. I'm really interested to see where things go with Adrian Peterson and the running backs they have been. I still think they've got the division wrapped up a little bit, but they're at number 10 this week. At number 9, the Pittsburgh Steelers. And, I hate Pittsburgh. It is what it is. They've got a really good defense. Their offense is abysmal, but their defense is going to be
tragic.
What's that?
Monday's going to be tragic seeing them against the Bears. Ugh.
Yes, it will be very bad against the Bears, or for the Bears on Monday.
Well, I'm just saying for both, like the game is going to be just miserable. Those two offenses slugging it out. Oh, disaster.
At number 8, the Cincinnati Bengals. I've been really high on them. They beat my Ravens, and then they lost last week to the Jets. So you take one step forward, and then you take 2 steps back. They've got to get it figured out. They've got a tough test this week against Cleveland. But I really like that offense there. And I think that they might be able to, surprise some teams down the stretch. At number 7, the Tampa Bay Brady's. They're low this week. It is what it is. They had a bad week last week. But at the end of the day, they've got Tom Brady. And when they're healthy, they are arguably one of the best teams in the NFC. So they're a little low, but they'll be all right. At number 6, the team that I still cannot buy in on, the Green Bay Packers. They beat the Cardinals. They're going to be out with no Aaron Rodgers this week. It'll be interesting to see where they go against the Chiefs, one of the worst defenses in the NFL, a team that is struggling. We'll see what they do at quarterback this week. At number 5.
What's the line on that game, by the way, Colten? Do you know off the top of your head?
I do not know, but I'll look because it's in our pick'em. It's in our pick'em.
Okay,
so I will look.
Pick'em. We'll get to the pick'em. All right.
Yes. So at number 5 is my Baltimore Ravens. We've had some injuries. We're coming off the bye this week. It'll be interesting against the Vikings. They had a tough loss last week. Vikings have a decent defense. It'll be interesting to see what the Ravens can do with their defense after a bad performance second half against the Bengals before the bye week.
Live streaming can be tricky, and sometimes trying to find the right software to make.
There we go.
Excuse that ad. I don't have the
Free pub for whoever that was.
At number 4, we've got the Rams. They're kind of hit and miss on me a little bit this year, but I think down the stretch, they're going to give some teams a run for their money, and they're going to be competing for that number 1 spot in the NFC West.
They also just got Von freaking Miller.
Yes, they do have Von Miller as well. So that'll be a big addition for their defense. At number 3, arguably the best offense in the NFC, the Dallas Cowboys. Dak and this team, they've got it figured out. They beat the Vikings with Cooper Rush. I mean, come on. Their defense is good. It's growing week after week. The offense is going to be just fine. Dallas at number 3. At number 2, the Arizona Cardinals. They drop a little bit after their 1 loss. They'll be just fine. If A.J. Green was smart and turned around, they wouldn't have lost. They'd be 8-0, and they'd still be in number 1. But at number 1, the Buffalo Bills. The team that'll probably come out of the AFC this year. Josh Allen, they've got it rolling. The Buffalo Bills, look out for them come playoff time.
Circle the wagons. Colten, you knew last year I was very high on Buffalo. That was the team that I said, look out for the Bills. And honestly, I think that's a great number 1. I would be, at this point, just given the rest of the AFC, I would be floored if Buffalo is anything less than an AFC finalist. And I would be hardly surprised if they were in the Super Bowl. Like to me, if they are not at the very least in the AFC title game, given the rest of the AFC, I will be shocked and horrified.
Baltimore Buffalo is going to be a very interesting AFC championship game. I think that's who it's going to come down to.
Baltimore wins the division in your mind?
I think so. I think they're going to get that second game in Cincinnati. It really depends on what they do with Cleveland and with Pittsburgh. I think Cleveland is a little beat up without both their running backs and with kind of the issues that they're having now. Obviously, Baker's not healthy. So I think Cleveland's going to fall a little bit. And then Pittsburgh just does not have the offense to compete. I mean, they're going to be 9-8 this year, 10-7 at best, in my opinion. Just because of purely their defense keeping them in. I will look up that.
Whose biggest omission? Because, in my top 10, which you stole, there was always a team or two that just missed. Did you have a team that was just on the outside looking in? Because there's a couple teams that I think you could make a case for cracking the list, but I'm curious to hear what you have.
Cleveland was on the outside looking in. I kind of debated about throwing them in at number 10, but with Tennessee with back-to-back wins, I felt like I had to throw them in there. Maybe the Patriots, but they're kind of a little too far down there in my opinion.
Are we out on New Orleans with Jameis?
I don't know, and I think they've got a few more injuries other than Jameis now as well.
Yeah,
obviously Michael Thomas is not coming back. Their defense played really well against Tampa Bay last year, but I still think Tampa Bay is going to win that division.
Yeah, I think so too. I do.
I want to look at that line for you on the Kansas City Green Bay game. And of course, I can't find it.
I believe it's 7.5.
7.5. Okay.
Which I will tell you right now. Bet Green Bay if it's going to be 7.5.
Yeah.
Kansas City doesn't cover games. They didn't cover games last year. They're not covering them this year. They're not winning that game by more than a touchdown. It ain't happening.
And they're struggling so bad. And if they can barely, no offense, don't take this the wrong way, but if they can barely beat your Giants, they
should have lost. Are you kidding? There was a interception negated by a terrible offsides where the Giants at that point are in the driver's seat to win the game. The Giants should have beat them in Kansas City. So, no, I don't take offense to that at all. Like, the Giants should have won. So, yeah, that's a huge knock on Kansas City.
we'll get into the Pigskin Pickem. We've got 8 football games, and typically I throw a few college games in there, but you said, you weren't up there for the college. So
No college. I leave all my college betting to Rodney. I'll text him every Saturday morning. I say, all right, Rodney, what's the word, Larry Bird? And then he'll give me his rundown of 40 games that he's betting on because, of course, he's bet on all 40 games that start at noon, and then I just ride with him. So until he gives me the advice, I'm not going to give you any college picks.
Which is fine, and it's my show. We can do what we want. So I threw in 3 NBA games right down your alley. So we'll start with the 2 games tonight. Boston Celtics at Miami. Boston had a players-only meeting in Miami. Miami's really hot. I think they might be the team to beat in the East.
They are.
I'm going to take Miami.
So is this spread or just straight up?
Just straight up. Who's going to win? Who's going to lose?
Yeah, Miami's winning that game. So Miami is second in offensive rating, second in defensive rating. They have the best point differential in the NBA, where they're winning their games by an average of 16 points. They are a juggernaut. So they are by far and away the best team in the East. And there are some good teams there. Like we were just talking about earlier, the Eastern Conference is pretty good this year. Miami's really good. So, yeah, I think the Heat, even though they played yesterday, so it's the second half of a back-to-back, which you always got to be concerned about a little bit. I'm not terribly concerned with the Heat finding a way to win this game. So I got Miami.
Next game, OKC at our very own Lakers. I don't think the Lakers are going to lose 2 in a row to this very bad Oklahoma City team.
No, I don't either. And if they do, then my prediction of saying the Lakers will have a winning record without LeBron is going to look very foolish. But they were up 26 when they played the Thunder, and then they had that horrible collapse.
Right.
That was a game without LeBron on the road, up by 26. That was when Westbrook was still at his worst. So. Yeah, I think the Lakers are going to win this game pretty comfortably.
Friday night on ESPN, you've got the New York Knicks at the Milwaukee Bucks.
Love that game.
That's going to be a very interesting game to watch. I like Milwaukee in this, but not comfortably.
I like the Knicks in this.
Yeah?
Yeah, I like the Knicks. I mean, healthier team right now. The Knicks, what they have is just really solid depth, where they can bring Derrick Rose off of the bench, where they can bring Obi Toppin off the bench. Like they have elite 3-point shooting. The offense is night and day different from where it was last year. They can defend. They're a good rebounding team. Like that team is well coached, as we know. And I'm not saying that none of this applies to Milwaukee, the defending champs. And of course, Giannis Antetokounmpo is still the best player in basketball, in my opinion. But I think the Knicks can win this game on the road.
We're going to transition to the NFL. That'll be where the rest of our games are at in the Pick'em. You will be added to the leaderboard after this week.
Yes.
So after Monday night, we'll see where you lie on our leaderboard. I believe Tanner is our leader at 9-2. I believe. Ooh. 8-3, 9-2, somewhere up in there. So you got some ground to make up, but you did get 3 NBA games. So that should be 3 wins right there for you.
It should be. It should be. Yes.
Cleveland go ahead.
No, I was just saying those, watch the Lakers be the one loss there that I've taken those.
Cleveland at Cincinnati is our first NFL game. I think Cleveland's just too beat up. And I'll take Cincinnati in this one.
Yeah, this is an interesting one because the Bengals, there's obviously there's 2 ways that they can respond. They can be really pissed off about what happened to them last week and come out firing, or they can be like, oh, we're frauds. I knew it was too good to be true. And then they just wither away. My gut is telling me, and I know that people might not like this, my gut's telling me Cleveland actually wins this game. I don't know why. They're beat up. I fully understand, but I think I look at Cleveland's pass rush going up against Cincinnati, who Cincinnati's still having trouble blocking for Joe Burrow. So yeah, I'm gonna take Cleveland in an upset.
Denver at Dallas. I believe it'll be the 3:25 game for us Central Time here. The Von Miller list
Yeah.
Broncos.
Yeah.
Dak is back. I think
Yeah.
Dak might throw for 400 again.
Yeah, Dak is back. The Cowboys are going to roll in this game. Yeah, give me the boys. I don't think this one will be particularly close or interesting.
Two. New England at Carolina. I think Carolina's really fell off the face of the earth after a hot start. We were starting to see ghost of Sam Darnold past again, show up a little bit. Christian McCaffrey could be coming off of IR soon, but I'll take the Patriots in this one.
Yeah, I'm going with the Patriots too. I'm right there with you. They're just a better team. Carolina proved that they're frauds. Sam Darnold is just so wildly inconsistent. Keep in mind, this is Sam Darnold against the team he saw ghosts against, right? Or was that Pittsburgh? Who was it that he saw ghosts against?
I can't remember.
Now I don't know why I thought it was New England. Maybe I'm crazy here.
I think it might be New England.
Yeah, it was New England. Yeah, down 24-0 in the first half of a Monday night game against New England 2 years ago. So yeah. It's dark times for Sam Darnold. So yeah, it's gonna have some bad memories, and I got the Patriots winning this game.
Green Bay at Kansas City. I think if Kansas City wants to turn their season around and really get going on the right track, this is going to be a good game for them to do that.
Yeah,
only because of the quarterback issues. I like Kansas City. If Aaron Rodgers is playing, I take the Packers 100%.
Yeah, and if we're doing spreads, I'm easily going Green Bay. Straight up, I'll take Kansas City to win by a hair, by the smallest of hairs.
A field goal.
Maybe less. Seriously, I think that this game will be much closer than it should be.
Arizona at San Francisco. I think Arizona responds this week. And maybe AJ Green can learn how to run a curl route. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that San Francisco, I don't know. When I was looking at these teams earlier, like my first gut instinct was to go with San Francisco. Just at home, I think they'll be able to run the football. Yeah, and I still don't know if the Cardinals are like a true Super Bowl team. If they can win this game in convincing fashion, maybe I'll feel otherwise. But I like the 49ers as a home underdog here.
Okay. All right. Sunday night football, Tennessee at Los Angeles. I think the Rams win this one convincingly, especially without Derrick Henry. We'll see what the Titans are able to do. But I think the Rams might be too much here.
Yeah. I mean, Tennessee basically has to reinvent their entire offensive game plan. And it's hard to do that when Derrick Henry just does so much for you. Like, contrary to what we all say about running backs being replaceable, Derrick Henry is kind of above that at this point. While Tennessee can throw the ball, and they got two great receivers, and I think Ryan Tannehill's fine. Yeah, I think the Rams are just too much, and it's a great offense. It's a great defense. I could see Cooper Kupp catching like 180 yards, 12 catches. So, yeah, I like the Rams in this one.
Monday night, Chicago at Pittsburgh.
Ugh.
This is going to be a very good defense playing a very bad offense. It's going to be a okay defense playing a very bad offense. I think this is going to be a really boring game. It's going to be
terrible.
closer. It's going to be closer than you think, but I'll take Pittsburgh.
Yeah, Pittsburgh at home, I think is really the big thing. I think 6.5 is too much. But yeah, I'll go with the Steelers at home in this one. The Bears are not a good road team. The Steelers still got a great defense that ultimately, when it comes down to offensive lines, like I just trust the Steelers offensive line with Peoria's Kendrick Green a lot more than I trust the Bears offensive line that just let Fields get into all sorts of trouble. So yeah, I think Steelers win this game.
Which is saying something because the Steelers offensive line is an absolute abomination. I mean, it is. Besides Kendrick Green, I wish he would have gone to the Ravens with the next pick.
Yeah.
But, I mean, besides Kendrick Green, they are bad.
That's what I'm saying. So, like, it's two really bad offensive lines, but I like the Steelers one just a little bit more. I like the Steelers' weapons more, and I probably like their defense more as a whole. So, yeah, Steelers at home.
This one should be just getting underway here in the first quarter. A just brutal Thursday night game. The Jets at Indy. I've been toying with this one all day, and I want to take Mike White in, the story that it is there, but I don't know if I can pull myself to do it because I don't want to put my fate in Carson Wentz's hands either because he'll just throw it away like he's done for the last few weeks. I'll take Indy. I don't like it, but I'll take him to win.
I think the Jets got their miraculous win out of the way. You know how last year when they stole that game against the Rams?
Right.
And then last week they stole that game against a much improved Bengals team. They got that win out of the way. It's going to be the Mike White welcome back to reality game. and that's saying something because I don't think the Colts are very good. And Carson Wentz isn't very good. And I think that the line, which was like 10.5 before the game, is just absurd. But I think the Colts are going to win this game.
That's going on right now. Again, tonight, you've got basketball, you've got hockey, you have football. It's a great time to be alive. But that'll do it for us here tonight on the Colten Kahler Show. Tim, thank you. I appreciate it. And you're welcome anytime.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Colten. I appreciate that. I had a lot of fun. It was good to just like shoot back and forth some takes, and I feel like slowly over the show I was regaining my old form of yelling about sports things instead of just typing furiously. So thank you for allowing me the opportunity to do so.
No, I appreciate it. But he's Tim. I'm Colten. That's been it for us tonight on the Colten Kahler Show. We'll see you next week.